Hello, guys. Welcome in. Welcome in. Those of you here who are here early, thanks for being here on time. Today we're going to be painting, and I'm just going to set up actually my base here. So we can chat while I get things set up. Basically what I like to do is I don't like to start on white. So I'm just going to put down a tone in acrylic. And then while that dries, I'll talk about the challenge and all the other stuff. But thought I would do it on stream for you guys to see the whole process. But welcome in, everybody. I see some familiar names here. So Like and Arts, welcome in. One of our lovely YouTube members, and Gonzalo, one of our guests. Nice to see you finally made it. Hello, Vin, and our lovely mod, Joanne. Welcome, welcome. Hope you guys are enjoying your Saturday so far. It's snowing where I am right now, so it's kind of cold. But I'm actually nice and cozy inside. I've got my hoodie on, and I've got some hot tea. Very excited to be painting today. If you're wondering what I'm using right now, I am just using a black and white acrylic. So I just got out my Liquitex acrylic. It's just like a big basic tube, and I have some very, very ancient black acrylic. This is like 20 years old. Still haven't used it up because black is such a strong color. I've probably used up like maybe 50 tubes of white and like one tube of my one jar of black is still here. But I don't like to start on white, so I'm going to start with a gray background. And if you guys are painting digitally, like this is one click for you guys. Lucky digital artists. Yeah, so I am almost done here. I like to tone, sometimes I tone my canvas with oils, but I like using acrylic just because it dries really quickly and it doesn't actually affect my colors above, you know, that I paint above, because sometimes depending on what colors you use, like if I use white oil paint, that white doesn't dry very quickly. So if I am toning a canvas with oil, I would not use white. If you do use white, it sort of will blend with all of the colors that you put on top of it, and it's really, really hard to get any accurate colors. So that part is quite frustrating. So, anywho, I also like painting the sides of the canvas so that there's like a nice clean edge. Starverse, what are we painting today? We are going to be painting pancakes. I was trying to think of something sweet that can also be savory, that like everybody eats. I think across all cultures there's some type of pancake food. So yeah, pancakes is on the menu. Funny enough, I love pancakes, but nobody in my immediate family really likes it, so unfortunately I don't get to eat a lot of it, because I also love to cook, but when I cook, I tend to like to cook for not just myself. I like to cook for my family. So I'm using like an old junky brush. Here we go. All right. So that took me about 5 minutes. And you can see it's not perfect. This is not really meant to be my finished background. This is just meant to give me a starting point so that I'm not starting on white. All right. Just clean up my brush. Oh yeah, savory pancakes. What do you guys like making your pancakes with? Because I wasn't able to find a really good, like, I've recently started buying Cora brand pancake mix, which is like, Cora is like this breakfast joint in Canada. It's actually a franchise, and it's a great breakfast place. But they have like the healthiest pancake mix. Like, all the other pancake mixes out there have all these like additives in them. And I recently got this health food scanning app, which will, like, you can scan the barcode of any food and it'll kind of tell you if it's healthy or not. And so yeah, pancake mix usually is not very healthy. So if you make your pancakes from scratch, I think that's probably the healthiest. So my favorite type of pancakes are actually savory pancakes. I like making zucchini pancakes, which is just basically like shredded zucchini, eggs, flour, some salt, some pepper, some green onions. Oh, they are delicious. So I like my pancakes savory and sweet. I guess I like both. Your mom makes them from scratch? Yeah, it's so great. So great when you can have food from scratch, especially homemade stuff. All right, guys. Well, thank you for being here and joining me today. I realized that I'm not actually... You guys can't actually see me. Just a second here while I load my little avatar. There we go. Hello. Yes. Welcome in. Today we are painting food, and we're going to be painting in water-soluble oils. One of my favorite mediums. So you guys are in for a treat. Pun intended. But before we get started, those of you who didn't know, our mission at WinCanvas is to make art education easily accessible to everyone. So tune in live for free lessons every week. We're currently streaming Saturday and Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, but in 2025, we are going to be experimenting with some new live stream times. So let us know which times you would like to see us stream, and I would invite you all to join our Discord. So Discord is where all the action is. I live on Discord. Everybody at WinCanvas is the most active on Discord. So if you haven't joined, this is where we post all of our artwork from streams. You can post your artwork, you can share. This is where our members community is. So definitely join the Discord. It is the biggest art nerd community online, and we art nerds have to stick together. So if you are an art nerd too, be sure to check out the links in our description below and see our website for our classes. Because we're not just a YouTube channel, we are a school of illustration. And with our school, you can get critique, guidance, and encouragement from our instructors. You can join us live and start learning for free, or you can join our Discord, become a member, and our Patreon members. Here we go. If you become a Patreon or YouTube member, you can chat with our members only community, with our instructors. You get our artwork from streams, and you get a monthly live class recording. Lots of cool perks, and the best of all, you get critiques. So you can get asynchronous critiques as well as live critiques in the VIP tier. All right, guys. Let's get started. So let me show you what I have planned today. So I had planned to, I actually wanted the spicy food to win. but everybody picked, well, 42%. 40%, over 40% of you guys chose sweet treats. Now, we've done a lot of dessert streams already, but it seems like the art nerds have a sweet tooth, or maybe it's just the time of year. But sweet treats won the poll, even though many of you voted for or told me you wanted spicy food in the comments. And I was very, very torn. I was thinking, should I put chili peppers on these pancakes to paint something spicy? But no, I decided that it would be best to stick to some traditional pancakes. So I'm working from 3 references. Let me just show you, because a lot of our students will ask us, you know, how do I not copy a reference exactly? How do I know, you know, which reference to use? And so my advice would be to, if you could take your own reference picture, that would be the best thing. That would be my recommended, is if you can take your own reference picture. If you can't, then, you know, you can find other reference pictures. I spent a long time on Pinterest drooling over all the delicious food I could paint. But I found these bacon pancakes and I thought, oh my goodness, I don't even eat bacon, but I remember when I did, it was so delicious, and I would definitely insert some of these into the layers. So I might do that. And then I also like this image, particularly for that thick drop of maple syrup coming down the side. And I want to put the pancakes on a plate. So here I have like a plate reference, a bacon reference, and this is probably my main reference. So you can see this is kind of why I painted my background this gray color, because I want to mimic this background so that the pancakes really, really stand out. Now, before we get into things, it's challenge time. Okay, so this month's challenge is Winterlicious. So we want to see your food. We want to see all of the delicious food that that you have already done or that you can paint for this challenge. So if you submit your artwork for the monthly challenge, you have a chance to be featured. So I want to give a shout out to 2 people who submitted nice and early. Castle, shout out to you and your pancake studies. I saw this today and I was like, we have a mind meld. Like, I didn't even see this, but we both are painting pancakes for this month's challenge. So love to see these studies. I love to see how, you know, you're trying line art with one of them, and then like almost like a painting, a fully painted approach with no line art on the other one, and you're sort of using references but also doing your own thing. So that's really, really cool. Nicely done, Castle. And this one I thought was really, really good. So Chi of Many Worlds. Chi is one of our verified critiquers. So if you want to join our Discord, you can not only submit your artwork for the monthly challenge and get featured, but you can get amazing feedback from our amazing community. She is one of our verified critiquers, so you can get feedback from them as well. So shout out to you. Love this composition. Really like the close-up view of those marshmallows and the hot chocolate. I could feel the warmth in that cup, and great expression on the character. Love this piece. So thank you so much for submitting. Don't forget, you have all of December to submit your food artwork. Alrighty. If you're going to be painting along with me, definitely share your artwork. We try to plan our streams so that you know, you can have a chance to paint the challenge with us with some instruction. So look at that, my canvas is already dry. All right. Let's see here. If you can hear squeaking sounds, that's my microphone stand. I need to move it around because like I'm going from my computer to my paint stand here. Alrighty. So The palette that I'm going to be using, that I kind of start off with many of my paintings, is the good old Zorn Palette. And if you haven't heard of the Zorn Palette, I have many, many videos on the topic. But it's basically 2 colors plus black and white. So I have my white. And I'm going to take out my cadmium red hue. So cadmium red hue is the non-toxic, non-poisonous version of cadmium red. Personally, I have found no differences other than health benefits. So there's almost no reason not to get the hue. It's cheaper. It's exactly the same. And it's not toxic. So I also have my cadmium yellow hue. So cadmium red and cadmium yellow are both closer to yellow than they are to blue, right? So my limited palette is going to be slightly warmer than if I was using like a cooler red or like a lemon yellow. Okay, so I might take out some more colors afterwards, but these are the colors that I'm going to start with. So I will sometimes supplement my colors depending on what I need. So all right. So I like to paint my background again with acrylic just because it dries really quickly. But if I wasn't under any time constraints, I would definitely consider doing like an oil rub out technique where I would just basically stain the canvas with like an earth tone and then use my finger to rub out the composition. So I do this in some of my class recordings, but because we are limited with time, I'm going to be just painting on a background that is already dried. So if you guys have any questions about the medium that I'm using, let me know. Let me know in the chat. I'm happy to talk about water-soluble oils. Love this medium. It's so creamy. Let me know if you guys have actually painted with oils before. But it's it's such a nice medium. Really, really easy to blend and all that stuff. So let's start off with just a basic drawing. So this brush is like really thick and it's gonna give me like a super thick line. But basically I'm gonna like paint a stack of pancakes, right? So I'm gonna just start sketching it out. And the nice thing about this medium is that you can essentially erase stuff. So erasing would just be taking a cloth. So I have an orphan sock here. This is one of my, oh look, it's matches the gray perfectly. This is one of my socks that got lost its partner in the dryer, and I never found the other pair, but I use all of my orphan socks as rags and they work out great because you can put your hand in it, make a sock puppet like this, and then you can erase stuff, right? Pretty easily. Gonzalo says, I've seen a lot of oil painters doing that, and I was taught that started during the Renaissance, but what does the brown underpainting do? So good question. So the brown underpainting is it's more of a traditional technique where you start with like a dark base and then you remove the lights. So it originated back in the probably like pre-Renaissance, where, you know, a lot of the painters were painting with by candlelight, essentially, right? So they didn't really have artificial lighting, and it was just a way to capture one light source and do this this underpainting. And so that technique sort of stuck, and we still are taught that particular technique in art school. And I've taught it in a few of my classes. I find that it's a really good way to establish your values, or to start thinking about your values before you even start. So that's, you know, that's what I find valuable about it. You can see I'm just erasing by adding a little bit of water. It is taking off some of my acrylic, but I think that's okay. I'm doing a very sort of symmetrical composition, because when I think about pancakes, I can't envision it not in the center. Usually I like asymmetrical stuff, but today it's gonna be symmetrical. So I'm gonna put in a few pieces of bacon here, just kind of where I want that bacon to go. The traditional undo button is a cloth. Yep, it's an old sock. Yeah, so the underpainting is really just a good way of establishing your values. Actually, let me show you an underpainting that I have. So I actually have one. This is an underpainting, where you can see I toned the canvas with I think this was burnt sienna. And then I rubbed out the lights, right? So this is very transparent paint. And then I was able to use two colors, so my burnt umber and my white, to do my value painting. So that's kind of how I would do, like I would recommend an underpainting if you are struggling with color. So if you're struggling with color, go back to black and white, because it's likely going to help you a lot more. So 0% of you guys have tried oils. Oof, oof. Try them. They're excellent. And I recommend the water soluble oils so that you don't have to worry about all those different solvents. Yes, solvents are not fun. They're toxic. They're very expensive. So definitely, I would definitely say try oil paints. They're so much fun. Okay. So it's like when you start shading with values before you start getting into color. Yeah, that's exactly it. And if you took this underpainting, like if I painted this and I made it slightly lighter, I could actually glaze colors onto it, right? So I could use transparent colors and I can start glazing skin tones onto it. I could paint the background color. If I made the background color cooler, then the face would look a lot warmer. So this was just like a study that I did in class, but that's essentially what the technique is like. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to painting the individual pancakes, and I'm just going to talk quickly about brushes. So I have a set of Escada brushes. They're from Barcelona, and I really, really like this brand of brushes. It's a brand that I started using in art school, and I just like the way they handle. And so, yeah, this one is a brand new flat brush. It's a size 12. The only thing I would say about brushes is you don't want to start using brushes that are too small. Just like if you're creating digitally, right? If you start too small, then you start to it just takes a really long time, and you're kind of focusing on the wrong things, like focusing on the details instead of on the big picture. Okay, so I'm doing a painting technique that's pretty rough. Like it's definitely going to be, like I said, it's going to be messy. It's going to be pretty I guess this would be almost like alla prima, where I start to place in the lights and we'll see it all come together. The only thing about the Zorn palette is if you're painting a lot of browns, it can be pretty annoying to mix. Like, if you have like a burnt umber or something, that would be a lot easier, but I've already committed to this palette. So most of my time is going to be spent recreating the browns that I need for this painting. All right. Plastic or glass palette? If I had the choice, I would be using glass. And one of my painting instructors gave me a really good hack for it, where he like made me make a grayscale and put it underneath the glass. So when I did that, it really helped me pay attention to those values, and it made me a much more much more aware of my values, and that was really helpful. So glass palettes are great because they're extra smooth. You don't need to waste any plastic, and you can essentially scrape off your paints and reuse them if you have one of those paint saver things, which I do, but I'll be putting my paints in there afterwards. And oil paints can last like 3 weeks, maybe even more. Like, I've had acrylic paints last for over 3 weeks when I put them in one of those paint savers, which are essentially like a giant thing of Tupperware. Yeah, oil paints are so much fun. If you haven't tried them, I highly suggest adding it to your wish list this Christmas. Super fun. Just the consistency is just beautiful. It's like painting with almost like peanut butter. But it's like super silky and it blends effortlessly. Love it. Hey there, Mr. Half said. Welcome in. You haven't missed much. I just kind of started. And right now I'm just painting some pancakes, which is going to be the stream topic today because y'all voted for sweet treats. Let me know what some of your favorite sweets are. It was really hard to choose what to paint today. I wanted to paint something that was like drippy. I wanted to paint something that was colorful and had different textures. And so when I saw this image, I spent a couple hours on Pinterest, like just looking at food, getting totally lost. And then when I saw this, I was like, okay, I'm definitely sold on pancakes. So in terms of my reference images, I'm not referencing it exactly. I'm sort of making it up. I'm deciding kind of how many pancakes I want to put on here, and then just using my flat brush and just getting in my lights, my midtones, and some dark accent colors. And also using a limited palette, like if you are a little bit wary of buying new paints, don't worry, you don't need to buy a lot of colors. Like you can just start off with your white, black, red, and yellow and paint really, really nice paintings with just a very, very limited palette. So if you had to buy 4 colors, those would be the 4. I would leave out the blue. And then if you want to buy a blue, then you can buy like a primary blue or an ultramarine blue. Or you can get like a nice set of primaries. Hey there, Joe. You're not that late. I just kind of jumped right in today. So this brush that I'm using feels like it's too big for what I want to do, but like I feel like it's good practice to use a brush that like feels like it's a little bit too big for what you need, because then you really get to practice handling it, and you know, it's you'll be able to see everything that you could do with a big brush if you just try it. So one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is starting with a tiny brush. Gonzalo said, when you work traditional, do you have your references printed out or on a screen? Today I have it on a screen. I don't print anything out anymore. Because my printer is just so frustrating. I've just stopped bothering it with it. And if I can save some paper, I will. And I'm using a variety of different references, right? I'm using kind of 3 different references. So I'm consulting them as I need to. But for now, I'm just sort of laying it all in as fast as I can. And yeah, the background is starting to feel blue already, right? Even though it's just black and white, it's starting to feel blue because I put in these orange hues, right? And the nice thing about grays is it starts to take on the opposite color of your main color, right? So if these pancakes were purple, then theoretically the background would appear more yellow. And if my pancakes are more yellow orange, then theoretically the background would appear more gray purple or blue purple, which it kind of is, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so I'm gonna see how much of the blueberries I'll be able to do with black. So oh, thanks, Joanne. Yeah, color theory is wild. We just released a video. When was it? On Wednesday, about color theory, and it's about how you can mix greens without using blues, which is pretty cool. And yes, it is possible. So go check that out if you want to nerd out on some color theory. So I'm trying to mix like a raspberry red, which is a little bit purpley. And actually, let me show you what the Zorn palette can do. So the palette that I'm using right now is kind of, it's like this palette, right? So I'm using the same red and the same yellow that you see on my palette, the exact same color combination. So you can see like the greens that you can get with the Zorn palette without any blues, right? This range of greens here. The black and white. So in the Zorn palette, the black replaces your blue. And so you can see, you can get a nice cool color that appears blue because your brain is like, wait, that's orange, so that must be blue, right? It can trick you, and it can offer a really nice muted palette. So the raspberries are kind of like in this range, so it's a little bit closer to purple. So if I add a little bit of black into my red, I should be able to get that. That sort of deep pink color. It may not be as saturated as if I actually used a purple, but I want to see what I can do with the limited palette that I have. Right, so that's a raspberry. This, I think, is some kind of strawberry. So it's going to be a loose one. You know what? This palette, I didn't prepare it earlier. I did it for a class, for a color mixing, a color theory class. So I have it. I've had it for a long time, but thanks for that. Thanks for the credit. I'll take it. Okay, so technically I can't actually make blue with the Zorn. So I can get this sort of grayish color, and if I added white to it, like I have red on my brush, right? So it's kind of contaminating it a little bit. But if I wanted to paint a blueberry, it would actually be a gray berry. But I promise it'll look blue. It'll look somewhat blue. And then there's some blackberries too. So these blackberries are darker and warmer than the blueberries. So I'm just gonna add some red to it and just put in those shapes. Right? So like those look blue. Don't they look blue? They're not blue. They're gray berries. Pretty cool though. I gotta say, pretty cool what our eyes see. Okay. Yeah, color perception is definitely insane. Like, colors are so relative that it's pretty cool. Like when you get really into color theory, you'll realize that a lot of color is just about relativity. It's about context and less about the color itself. Like I can make gray look like any color, which is really cool. Jess says, I've learned more about art using wing canvas videos than I did in 4 years of high school art. Oh my goodness. That's great to hear. Focusing on acrylic painting. Awesome. Well, we don't even have a lot of acrylic videos, but most of the people on our channel tend to like seeing digital. But I think traditional painting is going to make a comeback, especially because there's just like, there's so much, there's just so much, I want to say like AI generated stuff out there that I think a lot of people will want to pick up traditional art and really, like, it's just so enjoyable too. I know it's not as fast, and you know, it's messy, and materials can be expensive and things like that, but it's also like, you know, you get to mix colors and you get to have something tangible at the end, like have a true original. So if you're a digital artist, I encourage you to try some traditional art this year. If you're making goals for 2025, let traditional art be one of those things that you try. And I promise you'll have a lot of fun. Okay. How would we make acrylics like oils? You can't really make acrylics like oils. So like every type of paint has its own properties, right? It has its pros and cons. So you can use acrylic with oils, like I painted this background in acrylic. You can use it underneath oil. So you can't put acrylics on top of oils, but you can put oils on top of acrylics. So I will use that for, like, I'll use acrylics to start an oil painting, and I'll use acrylics if I have like a deadline and I need the paints to dry really quickly. So yeah, they're very, very different mediums. Like acrylics, the whole blending with acrylics is completely different than with oils, right? So you kind of just have to, you can't make them more like oils, but you can make them look like oils. Like you can add different thickeners to get those brush strokes, and you can varnish your acrylics with like a glossy varnish, which will make them appear more like oils. So there are some things that you can do. All right, so I'm gonna start painting my my plate. It definitely is nice to make things, like make something with your hands, right? To be able to have something tangible at the end. I think that's always nice. Now, if you're painting a white plate, right, that white is going to pick up some of that background color, which is why you see me adding gray to it, because if I just painted a white plate, it's going to be really, really overpowering, right? So even though the plate is white, it will reflect some of the colors around it. So I'm going to actually make it like a light gray. Even as a light gray, like it looks pretty light, like pretty white. Oh no, I painted on top of my blueberry. I totally forgot I had a blueberry in there. It was kind of the same color as the plate. So, or same color as the background. Oops. So I also find having this gray color is really helpful because, you know, I can, even if I leave some of that gray, right, I'm not going to have that white peeking through, which then you have to cover it up, right? So I think having that sort of in-between color is a really nice way to bridge and help you finish your painting faster. Yeah, thickeners are really helpful for making acrylics look less flat. Like, that's the thing I really don't like about acrylics, is that they just look really flat all the time. Unless you add some type of medium to it, or you use the really heavy body stuff. So right now I'm intentionally using brushes that are just kind of thick and not super refined, because I don't want to focus too much on the details just yet. So Joe says, is color theory based on optical illusions? I guess you could say so, yes. It's color theory is really, you know, there's the color theory of mixing, like how to mix specific colors, you know, like the color wheel, your primaries, secondaries, tertiaries, etc. But there's also color context. And actually, if you keep an eye out on the channel, we're going to be releasing a couple of videos that can help you understand color context. So the latest video on our channel is called Can You Mix Green Without Blue? So that's a good one to watch if you are curious about limited palettes. And then we're going to be releasing a video called Chevreul's Rule of Color Theory that's coming out this coming week. And Jessie does the demo digitally, and she's going to be talking about like concepts like subtraction, using complementary colors, and saturation to like make some colors stand out over others. Really, just like really interesting to learn, because you don't really think about it. But yeah, essentially it can be used for optical illusions. Okay, so I have my plate. It looks like it's kind of floating here, so I'm gonna go in and put some shadows underneath. Hey, Fluff, welcome in. Yeah, floating pancake plate. Okay, it's not floating anymore, guys. Here we go. There. So my goal was to really just get in as much as I could before I go in and mess with the details, right? I just like want to paint in as much as I can. It's pretty rough. Like, if you look at it up close, it's pretty rough. These are just blobs. Blobs of paint. Just the way I like it, though. It's nice and rough. All right, so next I want to paint some bacon. I talked about putting some bacon in between some of the pancakes. I definitely love the idea of like the sweet and the savory together. And again, I don't eat bacon because I'm mostly vegetarian. Like I'll eat fish, so I guess I'm pescatarian, but I used to love bacon. If it's the one thing, the hardest thing to give up was probably the bacon. So, painting it is kind of torture because it looks so delicious. I'm really making up where that bacon goes. I'm just putting in some shapes for now, for where, you know, I want this bacon to be peeking out. And just trying to get some hard edges in here. Do I want to have one more piece? Maybe. No, I think I'm just going to stick with 3 pieces of bacon. Have I tried Morningstar's bacon substitute? I have tried Eve's bacon substitute. And I think if I've never had bacon before, I would like it. But it's not, it's okay. Like I guess it's better than no bacon. I've had turkey bacon once upon a time. That was pretty good. Yeah, sorry if it's like 12 a.m. for you guys. We are going to be testing out some different times for future streams in 2025. So if there are any times that you guys want to see us stream, let us know on the Discord. Okay, so I initially sort of outlined my pancakes, or like I drew a, you know, a cylinder, and now I want to cover that up. So I'm gonna have to go in with my background color, and I'm kind of jumping around all over the place, but I think I'm gonna add some more details to the bacon first, and then I'll go and paint the background. I just want to make sure that I have my silhouette figured out. Before I think about the rest of the stuff. One tall stack of pancakes with bacon and fruit and maple syrup. Yum, yum. Canada is definitely the land of maple syrup. I put maple syrup in everything. I put it in my coffee. I put it in, obviously, on my pancakes, but I use it for everything. I do use it to cook bacon sometimes if I'm cooking for guests. But I put some in my onions when I'm frying up onions. it's such a good, just such a good all-around sugar substitute and has so much flavor in it. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm just trying to get rid of the outline. So you can see some of these outlines here are kind of flattening the piece. So my next step is to get rid of them. And I realize that this brush is like way too big. So I will do what I can. And I might give some texture to the background. You know, so it just doesn't feel so flat. Syrup in my coffee? Yeah, so I get these huge jars of organic maple syrup at Costco. And my household will finish one of those in like a couple months. Yeah, I'm kind of weird with my coffee. I try to stay away from dairy, so I put oat milk and syrup, maple syrup in my coffee. It doesn't actually float on top. It's great like that. It stirs in very nicely. So this is the part where I'm starting to figure out the contours of my pancakes. Just kind of fixing that. And so like this part where it's very very similar in value, I'll need to go in and make this part of the pancakes darker. Like I realize it's not dark enough because it's kind of blending into the gray there. So either I can make the gray darker or I can make the pancakes lighter, right? So I think, look at that, I already finished my black and my white. I'm just gonna take out some more color. Hey Quinn, welcome in. Do you guys put maple syrup in the pancake batter sometimes? I don't, but that's a good idea. I've never thought about trying that, but that sounds delicious. Yes, Quinn, this is a Zorn palette. It's actually perfect for this subject matter. So I use the Zorn palette a lot, and it's not that like I set out to use it, it's just such a simple palette that is, you know, can do so much. It has a lot of range. Like if you're painting something that doesn't have a lot of blues, right? Or like really vivid greens. Like if I'm painting an outdoor landscape or something, I probably wouldn't use the Zorn unless I'm painting like a nightscape. But if I'm painting something that, like a portrait, or something like this that doesn't actually have a lot of blues, then the Zorn palette is actually perfect. Thanks for dropping in, Quinn. Glad to hear you would eat my pancakes. Okay, so I think fixing the edge and getting rid of those outlines really helps. A lot of the times, because we have a very active Discord and lots of members will post their artwork for critique on the Discord, I see a lot of digital paintings that have outlines, and I know it makes sense to sometimes draw out exactly what it is you want to paint before you start painting, but I highly recommend painting on a separate layer than your line art, or just like getting rid of the line art entirely as a challenge. Because any like, if you're trying to go for a more rendered painting or something that is sort of more realistic, then line art can really flatten out your piece. Oh, Gonzalo, golden syrup. It's probably corn syrup, or like artificially flavored maple syrup. Yeah, not not the same. Actually, maple syrup comes from trees, which is crazy. Like it's literally the sap from maple trees. Which, if you guys have maple trees, then it seems like you would have some type of maple syrup. It would just probably not be as common as in Canada. But yeah, I put syrup in everything. Right now, I'm just trying to capture the texture of those pancakes. You know, like the imperfect edges. Like when I make pancakes, the first few are always weird looking, and then they get better and better as I go. They get like more round. Mr. Half said, have I ever done that thing where you draw characters for every hue of the rainbow? Just out of curiosity. Maybe when I was a kid. I loved drawing characters when I was like a kid. I haven't done that recently. But it sounds fun. I'm glad you guys are coming up with some good ideas for the challenge. I'd love to see your submissions, and you have until December you have all of December to practice your food art. And you know, I want to see more traditional stuff in in the submissions. So keep those coming. Okay, so I need to go a little bit darker now. Where do you post art for the challenge? In our Discord. So if you join our Discord, you can find the link Oh, Nightbot just posted the link in the chat. So join our Discord, and then there's a stream called Challenges. And Joanne, who's our mod, she will post each month's challenge in the beginning of the month. And there's a thread created for it, and then you just post your artwork there. Simple. But yeah, our Discord is a great community for people to share their artwork, get encouragement. If you're a member, you get access to some secret channels, and you can chat with the creators. But still a very, very helpful place if you're learning art. Again, we have a lot of amazing people and volunteers giving out critiques, like Gonzalo in the chat. And she, whose work was featured a little bit earlier. Right now I'm just giving a little bit of texture to the background, just to make it a little bit more visually interesting. So if there is some sort of horizon line, it's going to be a little bit blurry, and I'm just going to add some more like horizontal textures. And I just lost my shadow. All right. Yeah, it's definitely, the Discord is definitely a great place for critiques. You know, if you are there getting a critique, it would be very kind if you can also give a critique. And the best way to give a critique is just to tell somebody, you know, what you really like about their artwork overall. You know, and then a couple of things that you think might improve the piece, right? You know, you don't want to go in there and you want to be mindful that a lot of people are sensitive when it comes to getting feedback. I think that's something that's very natural, and it's something that we grow out of, you know, as we learn more and get more critiques. But in the beginning, it's very daunting for a lot of beginners to share their artwork because it may not be where they want it to be. You know, it might be their first time, and so you just want to be a little bit mindful. And we have actually pretty cool roles set up. So, you know, if you right click on somebody's username, you can kind of see if they say like heavy critique is okay, or light critique, or draw overs are okay. So a lot of the times we will do draw overs on student artwork. Personally, I found draw overs really, really helpful. Like, in terms of when I was learning, I found that draw overs really helped me in a big way. Like, it helped me see what I was doing wrong. It helped me see if somebody else was working on my piece, what they would do differently. So I learned so much from draw overs. But, you know, I've also ran into situations where students don't want you to draw over their work, and that's fine too, right? So it's like whatever you're comfortable with. In the end, it's all about learning, so. So you might notice I went a little bit brighter at the top. This is a way of getting the contrast that I want. So, right, if I want the berries to be a little bit darker, then I might go a little bit lighter, and then I can just kind of blend this into the gray that I already have. The compliment burger. Yeah. I've always heard of it as the compliment sandwich. Definitely a good technique. Yeah, you wanna sandwich the critique in between some compliments. It's easier definitely to receive feedback that way. Because we all get a little bit defensive, right, over our work, because we labored over it for so long, and we poured our hearts into it, and we put it out there, just to see what other people think. And art is very subjective. Not everybody's going to love your piece, and that's okay, right? You can kind of like, you don't need to, you want to try to not take it too personally, and remember it's just somebody else's opinion. You can take it or leave it, but your final piece is still yours. So you don't have to take critique, even if it's from instructors. Like, you don't have to take it. It's important to listen, and it's important to acknowledge, right? And to thank people for taking the time to give you their feedback. Okay. Yes, we are definitely our own worst critic. For sure. Yeah, and that's a really good point, Gonzalo. If you only focus on the things that need improvement, that you might lose the things that worked really well. So that's the thing. It's very, very possible to overwork a piece. I've done it so many times. It's immensely frustrating. So if you feel like you're gonna risk, by altering your piece, you feel like you're going to risk getting rid of like the looseness that you really like, then it may not be worth it. If you guys are, any of you are preparing for a portfolio, check out the stream that Gonzalo and I did together. Really, really good tips. He'll show you his portfolio, which is outstanding. So if you haven't checked that out, go watch it after this. now what I'm trying to do, like the first phase of the painting, I was just trying to get it all in, right? The second phase of the painting, I'm trying to work on my hard and my soft edges. So making sure that my edges are all there. I messed up because I wanted to put in some maple syrup, like right here, kind of pooling on the plate. So let me show you how I would remove or erase oil paint. Okay, so I would basically put the sock in my hand and just start to remove some of this paint. I could add a little bit of water. So it may not seem like I'm removing much, but as long as I remove the thick paint, then I can go in and paint the syrup. So this syrup is like a brown color. And it's kind of pooling down here on the edge of the plate. So again, every element here, like whether it's the syrup or the pancakes or the fruit, it has some lighting on it, right? So even though you paint the base color, you gotta still paint the shadows and the highlights. So for the highlights of the syrup, there's a little bit of like gray kind of reflected at the top here. I'm just going to sneak in a little bit of that gray. And I'm a very messy painter. So, you'll probably like, you don't see the mess that's kind of like around here, but it's pretty messy. I'm wiping things on my shirt, on my apron. But I enjoy the mess. Okay, so there are my shadows. So you see that little bit of blue makes it look reflective, which is really cool. And it doesn't actually take a lot. It just is, you know, just a little hint of it. And then if I want that syrup to glow, I can go in and put some yellows right down here at the bottom. Sorry, if I'm not answering chat right away, it's because I'm like trying to focus on the painting, so I will catch up. Again, let me know if you have any questions just about the medium. If you've just joined us, I'm using water-soluble oils. Love this medium. Can't recommend it more. It's got like all the benefits of oil paint without the need for solvents and all that stuff. So I absolutely love it. Probably my favorite for painting still lives and portraits. Yeah, in your experience, the art is inherently messy. I think there's just like there's something nice about just messy paint or messy art. Like, there's just some things that you can't really do digitally. I find, like, all those little accidents, right, that you really only get when you're messing around with paint. So you're in a hypnotic trance. Thank you. I'm flattered. I'm just kind of like switching over to my other references because I'm using a combination of different references, right? So all of them are a little bit different, so I'm trying to like piece together what needs to go in each piece. If you just joined, I showed the references in the very beginning, but I can show them again later on if you're interested. But I basically have one reference for bacon, I have one reference for the fruit at the top, and I haven't even got into the fruit yet. I'm like so excited to paint all the details of the fruit and put in the shadows and all that stuff. So maybe I'll do some of that now. The stream has Bob Ross energy in the best way. I have a Bob Ross mug here. No mistakes, just happy accidents. And I have my little Bob Ross little figure here, just reminding me that mistakes are part of the process. Okay, let's get some of that drippy syrup in. I do tend to, like, if you watch me paint, you'll be like, you're jumping around all over the place. I'm a very chaotic painter. I just kind of go by what I want to do next. Although I try to use a big brush so I'm not getting stuck in all the details. So in that sense, I can paint pretty quickly, but I do like to jump around. Okay, I think I'm gonna sit down now. Oh, I've been standing for the last little while. I'm gonna sit down and start to put some of these details on the fruit. Yeah, Bob Ross is amazing. Like, even when you watch him paint, you'll notice that, like, his... Oh, there's my mic. You'll notice that his brushes are huge. His brushes are like what I would use to paint my house with. Like, they're just ridiculously big. Okay, so let's paint this strawberry. I want to get it so that it's like very very kind of delicious and translucent looking. So I'm just piling on this paint here. And this is something that oil paints can do and acrylics can't, right? Because with acrylics, I can't pile on the paint like I would if I was painting with oils. I can't really layer it on as thickly unless I use some sort of medium. And now I want to get those blueberries in really nicely. So I'm going to take like a really dark color, like this black, and start to put in some of those hard edges. Yeah, so guys, I'm painting blueberries without blue. I'm not using any blue. This is all gray. We actually had a potted blueberry plant in the backyard over the summer, and it yielded these big blueberries. They were huge. I was like, this is not possible, but they turned out great. Okay, so I think I went a little bit overboard with with these berries. I need to put the dark part in the middle. So if you are putting really dark darks on top of a light color, it can be really hard to not blend it in with the white, right? I'm trying to get like more highlights on these berries. Hello, Soul Ama. Welcome in. Is this your first stream with me? Hello. Welcome. Oh yeah, those blueberries are looking delicious now. So I'm gonna try to paint the middle of them. So when you're trying to put a dark color onto like a lighter color, you really only have one chance to do it before it blends, right? So it's kind of like placing it in the right spot. There we go. And then putting in some of those darks. And you can see, like, because I went so dark with these berries, I have to go in and make the syrup darker, right? Because these are popping. And everything else is still sort of, it makes it look, everything else look flat. So, I'm gonna have to go fix that later. But yeah, like the first 80% of your painting takes as long as the last 20%. Fortunately and unfortunately, like sometimes I'll be working on a painting all day long and like someone in my family will come over and they'll be like, "Oh, what did you do?" I was like, "I just spent like 4 hours on this." And they're like, "It looks the same." That's sometimes the reality of putting in those details, right? So if you know that like the last little bit takes so long, then you might as well not slave over the details and just like put most of your energy in the first, you know, the first 80%, right? Because if you figure that out, everything else is so much easier. Okay, so gotta put in some shadows. Okay. I really, really wanted to put in the, like I want to paint in some seeds for the strawberries for it to actually look like seeds. But I might just do it with a palette knife or like start to scrape out some of those seeds. I love that technique, using the palette knife. So fun. Hi there, Zayden. Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. Okay, so the blackberries. Oh, I don't know why I chose to paint blackberries. Let's see what I can do with my palette knife first. Let's see if I can scrape off some of those highlights. Nope. Okay. To add the highlights, they're going to be like a slightly warmer gray, and I'm probably going to use here the back of my brush. Let's see if I can get some of these highlights in. Sometimes it's better to stamp stuff than it is to actually use bristles. Just don't look at it too closely. Right. From far away, it looks pretty good. Random question. Would a chisel work as a palette knife in a pinch? A chisel. I'm gonna say no. It depends on what you're using it for. Like, if you're using a chisel, like, palette knives tend to be flexible, right? So if you look at this palette knife, you can see it's, like, very flexible, right? So if your chisel can bend like that, then yes. Otherwise, you can use it to, like, scoop stuff and maybe apply paint in a flat way. But if you're trying to, like, if you want that bendiness, it's not the best. But if you know me, I'll say you can paint with anything. Whatever you can paint with, you can, whatever you can use to make it work, you can use for painting. So if you can make a chisel work, then by all means use it, if that's all you have, right? But palette knives are pretty cheap, I would say, they're pretty affordable. Like, some dollar stores have palette knives. I'm not saying get them at the dollar store, but I've tried some dollar store palette knives and they're fine. Sometimes they come off the handles, but generally speaking, they're fine. How do you get into painting? You just start. You just get some paints, put it on your wish list over the holidays. Get yourself some paint, and just start. Like, you can't be afraid to start to try new things. Like, there's a lot of joy in trying it, even if it sucks, like, even if it looks terrible. And I think that's something that inevitably, like, anytime you try something new, it's going to probably not be great, but the fact that you tried it means that the next time is going to be easier. So just start. Don't wait. Don't wait till you have the perfect setup, the perfect paints. Like, just because if you wait, you're still gonna make the same mistakes. You're still going to struggle, right? Like, but if you just kind of think about the struggle as a good thing, like, it's a new experience. It's something that you've never done before, and you just kind of shift your mind from being afraid to being stoked, right? That you're like, you get to try something new. Like, it's so cool. Get to try something new. So I think mindset is probably more important than the materials that you have, or like anything else that you have. So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to put in a darker color within the syrup, but I don't have a brush that's going to make a straight line. So I'm going to take a risk here and use a palette knife to apply this color. Wish me luck. Okay, that came out a little bit crooked, but not too bad.
also there's the fact that you can improve without painting materials in hand with sketching and hatching. Yeah, like everything that you do creatively, you can clock towards your creative growth. Like even if it's like watching a movie or a documentary about an artist, or you know, experiencing something creative, going to a museum, any of that stuff counts towards your artistic growth. And I think that, you know, we tend to get like a little bit paralyzed with just like how many choices we have and how many things we got to do, and all of our, you know, all of the projects that we started and didn't finish, and all of the obligations that we have, and right, like it's overwhelming. So if you know, if you look at painting as something that you have to do, as something that is like work, right? Or if you don't make a great painting, then you failed. Like, that's not fun. Right? Instead, you want to like think about your painting as if it's a experiment. Like you're just having fun. You're messing around. Oh, thank you so much, Joe, for the donation. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I think that I've been learning how, again, like I've been learning how to skate. I started as an adult, and that was really scary, right? Because like with skating, you could break your bones. With painting, painting's pretty safe. Like what? You make a sucky painting, like boohoo, right? Like it's a very safe thing to do. So, you know, when I learned skating, somebody gave me some really good advice, and it's like, get yourself some padding, get yourself some good equipment. You know, so I went to like a thrift store and I got some old hockey equipment. And I just, as soon as I wasn't afraid to fall, like as soon as falling didn't hurt, it took away all of my anxiety and fear about falling. And then I just got better and better. And so with art, right, it's kind of like you have to get over the mental fear of not being good enough. Because if you compare yourself to somebody who's been doing it for many years on Instagram, of course your work is gonna look terrible. Like, of course, right? Like, there's you can't set yourself up mentally like that. You have to think to yourself, okay, I'm a beginner. My goal is to have fun. I'm allowed to make mistakes. My paintings in the beginning are gonna suck, and once they stop, you know, and like they're gonna probably, because we are our own worst critics, you're probably gonna think that they suck even when they're really good, right? Because you're always gonna want to do better. So that's just human nature, I think. Okay. So you just have to go into it without fear.
Because fear kills creativity. You know, like, yes, I could be afraid to mess up live on stream, right? Create a really ugly painting, because it happens sometimes. But I can't really think like that, because then I'll never really get
very good or very far. Okay, so I need to fix some of these pancakes that are kind of melting together. I really like how this syrup is looking, but you know, there's some highlights I want to add. There's some other textures. So there's some nice texture on the pancakes that I have in one of my references. So I'm going to show you a technique where it's called a dry brush technique. And basically you just like take your brush and you just tickle the canvas to get the texture. Right, so I kind of want that pan texture. That you usually see on the tops of these pancakes. And there's a lot of warmth that's missing that I'm getting a little frustrated with. And thank you again, Joe, for supporting the channel. I understand, you know, not everybody has the means to donate, and that's okay. That's why we do these streams for free, because we understand like it's tough to get started sometimes. But we really appreciate anybody who can donate to support us. You can also become a member on Patreon and YouTube. So if you become a member on YouTube, you can support us for $3 a month, and you get these neat badges. You'll see some of our members. They have those cool looking badges next to their names, so you can get those, and you can get access to our members chat. And then for $15 a month, you can get access to critiques from instructors, which is really, really helpful, especially if you're working on an independent project or, you know, something that you're stuck on, right? Those are all really nice opportunities to get expert feedback. So I think I'm going to use the palette knife again to put in some of the warmth. So with the oil paints, I'll use like palette knife, back of my brush, my fingers, whatever does the job, really. And now I'm gonna add some more saturation. So I mentioned that my pancakes were looking a little bit dull, and that's just because I have black and white in here. So what I can do is add a bunch of yellow so you can see this like really nice orangey color. Right, and get some of this brightness in, and then just start to add it in. That looks good. Okay. Yeah, hey Castle. Artist in chat. Fear is definitely the mind killer. I think one of my favorite quotes: "If you think you can or you think you can't, you are right." Right? Because everything starts as a thought, right? Every action starts as a thought. Even if it's subconscious, it starts as a thought. So if you think that you can't do something, then you've already, like, you've already told your brain that you can't do it, right? So it's kind of like you really have to be aware of what you are telling yourself. I wanted to do something there with that palette knife, but I feel like I'm gonna mess it up. So I might do something else where I add highlights instead of the shadows, right? Because right now I only have shadows on the syrup, so it doesn't really have that that shine, right? So once I start adding those highlights, which will just be yellow and some white, the thing about highlights is that people go a little bit crazy when it comes to highlights. And too many highlights also can ruin a piece. So you don't want to do too many. So here I will try. I'm like using 3 different references. So so I'm like, where do I put these highlights? Where can I put them so that they make the most sense? I'm gonna try to put some on here.
And like getting the right edge is important for palette knife techniques. Like I can use one edge over the other. That didn't work. And you know what helped me get over my fear of just painting in general was painting live.
Like I did a lot of live painting before even streaming. I would started in LA. When I lived in LA, I would just kind of set up my easel on a busy street or like in a park somewhere, and I would just paint, and people would start to line up behind me and ask me questions and take pictures, and I tried to stay as present as possible, and I practiced just my zen even when there were spectators, and I really enjoyed it because it allowed me to meet a lot of people and be very sort of transparent about my process and about how I work. And it helped me get over my fear. So painting in public. This is painting live. So like you guys can't see my face. You can't see the mess that's around me. You can't see all the stains that's on my shirt. And you know, all the paint that's in my fingernails. But it's still live. Like I'm still talking to you all, and everything you see me do here, all the mistakes that I make are are all laid out, right? So I know it's not for everybody, because I guess I'm more extroverted, but it's definitely a good exercise to kind of help you get over that fear of being judged, right? When I was in India, I would go to these temples, and I would also, get out my watercolors and spread out on a mat and start painting. And I remember sometimes there were these kids and some like really curious, like some cows would come to hang out. Some kids would come and like watch me pick up my brushes and kind of look at them and just like sit there and watch me. And it was a lot of fun. Like it was definitely an exciting and new experience, but there's really nothing that makes me stay more present than live painting. So I'm 100% with you guys here. Not distracted by anything else other than the chat, maybe. If art is absolutely terrifying to you, that's okay. I think that that response is normal for all things that are new, but don't let it be terrifying, right? If it's terrifying, then you're less likely to start. And actually curious, what exactly do you find terrifying about it? Like if you can define what terrifies you, then at least you'll start to understand what you can do about it. Okay, let's see how much time I've got. Oh no, I am out of time. See, I told you the last little bit would take as long as the first 80%, right? Okay, so I got a couple minutes left. Just gonna start to put on some of these details. I really like the texture of the pancakes, like especially like the raggedy edges, maybe that I didn't capture. So I'm just trying to take some time to do that. Make it look maybe a little bit more realistic, tastier. Do I have any examples of what happens when I go too crazy with highlights? Yeah, not any of my examples. Because I think I learned that lesson a while ago, not to do that, so. Here I'm using some dry brush techniques to get some of the highlights on the bacon. And the bacon is pretty dark, so I might go in and brighten it up with some red. So like when you adjust the colors on some parts, right, it will change the color on other parts. So then you have to like adjust everything accordingly, because then, like I said, all colors are relative, so it can start to affect everything else, right? So now this bacon is kind of too red. It's like the same redness as the strawberries. So now I gotta go in and tone it down a bit. So this is an example of going too much with the highlights, right? Because there's technically, this part is in shadow. So I went a little bit too crazy with the highlights there because I wasn't really thinking. So there's your example. I definitely think that being an artist, you have to be courageous. That's a really, really good point, Joe. Like, courageous in that, you know, failing is a part of the journey. Failing is how you get better. And failing is not that scary. Like, I think it's also, it might be like an entrepreneurial thing. Like, you know, I'm an entrepreneur, so I can't be afraid of failure, because that's what entrepreneurship is all about, right? Like when you hear from like the successful people who built $1 million businesses, they're not telling you about all the failures that they've had before they were able to achieve success. So it's the mindset that, you know, you're just going to keep going. You're going to pick yourself back up after you fail and not spend or waste time crying about it, right? Because crying about it doesn't really do anything. Learning from your mistakes and saying, "Oh, that was dumb. I'm not going to do that again," or maybe it was like, "Oh, well, that was silly. I shouldn't do that, but at least I learned this," right? Those are constructive ways that you can grow from every single failure. And again, that's all about mindset. So okay, I'm like having so much fun rendering these details out. I'll show you my references again for those of you who have joined in a little bit later on. So the references that I was using, I have this reference. This reference, I really like the syrup, and I like seeing layers of stuff underneath, and I use the reference for the plate. And then I have this reference for bacon. You know, I just want to kind of see how bacon looks within pancakes. And then I have this reference. So this is the reference that I was referencing the most in terms of just the fruit. You can see, right? But I changed some stuff around, and I sort of consulted all of those references to get exactly what I want. So that's kind of how you can use different references, right? Because sometimes you don't have the perfect reference, and sometimes you can't really take pictures of your own references. So it helps when you have a variety of different sources that you could reference, and that can really help you make something that's a little bit more original. And it's a skill, right? Learning how to use references is definitely something that you learn over time. And it's not easy, right? Because you're piecing together certain things. It's also hard to tell exactly like if the lighting matches and all that kind of stuff, right? So you just kind of have to wing it and enjoy the journey. Oh, I noticed that there's some highlights on that bacon, on the like crispy edges of the bacon. So references are really good for when you want to, when you're not really sure like where to put certain things, like certain highlights, right? And you like, I don't really stare at bacon for 8 hours a day. So if you ask me to draw something that looked like bacon, I would probably draw some squiggly lines with red, white, and black or something. Right? But when I'm actually looking at the reference, I can kind of see how the highlights are catching, whether those highlights are warm or cool. And I can get a better sense of how to paint it. Like this, what I just did, it was too much. This is an example of over highlighting. So just tone it down a little bit. Yeah, but overall, like I'm pretty happy with the syrup and how things turned out. There might be some things that I want to adjust. For example, this edge here is kind of disappearing, and I said I would either make this pancake darker or I would make the background lighter. So in this case, I think it would be easier for me to make that background just a little bit lighter. So this is probably one of the final touches I'm going to do. And then I'll give you guys a close-up so you can see actually how rough it is. Right, so this is artificial contrast. Like I'm just going in and making this edge a little bit lighter so that the pancake stands out a bit more. Right, there you go. Just those little things make a big difference. This is actually supposed to be a drop of syrup, but it's kind of too round. So just gonna flatten it out a little bit. So there's the close-up. You can see it's pretty rough. But yeah, this painting was made without any blue, guys. Just black, white, red, and yellow. So nice Zorn Palette plate of pancakes. And it's yeah, it looks delicious, even though the blueberries are gray, and there's really not a lot of color in this, but overall I'm pretty happy with how things turned out. So if you didn't know, our mission at Wing Canvas is to make art education easily accessible for everyone. So tune in live for free lessons every Saturday and Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Next year, we might be having more streams, maybe some weeknight streams. So definitely join our Discord. We love art nerds. So join our Discord, the biggest art nerd community that is online. And you can get critique from instructors as well as the community. On our Discord, I'm going to be posting the final artwork, so you can get all of our notes during streams on our Discord. So go ahead and we will see you there. And Wing Canvas is a school of illustration. We help artists tell stories through their art. So if you are a visual storyteller, join our school. We have tons of different classes and different programs. So over the winter, we have winter camps.
Winter camps are starting with Iggy. We have portfolio mentorship with Josh. And we have our art intensive hybrids. So I teach figure drawing. And you can sign up for our intensives on our website. Also, I'd like to give a big shout out to our incredible patrons and members on YouTube and Patreon who support us and support our mission of making free arts education. So if you become a member, you can have really cool perks, like you can chat with the channel creators, you can get instructor feedback on your artwork, you can get all of our notes and files from streams, as well as monthly class recordings. So check out the Patreon tiers and also our live critiques. We have different critiques for, let me see where they are here. Yeah, so my office hours are Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Iggy's is Monday evenings. Jesse is Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And Josh is on Saturdays. So you can join our live critiques if you are a member of a certain tier. So that's all, guys. Tomorrow, Iggy will be painting Christmas stuff. And you guys have voted for an indoor holiday scene. So I'm really looking forward to that. Don't forget to join Iggy tomorrow. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.